Welcome to the Fire Mountain Gems and Beads Jewelry Making Studio. My name is Rose. Today I'm going to show you this wonderful spiral herringbone bracelet using these rich, vibrant metallic colors. This is a spiral herringbone stitch, and I'm going to show you how to do it. Starts off with needle and thread. In this case, I'm going to use Fireline. It's an awesome product, but you could use pretty much any kind of thread. I wouldn't recommend probably a sewing thread because this is a much stronger thread and doesn't stretch a lot. Okay, so it all begins with the thread and the beads. I'm using these number 6 seed beads, and these are a fairly inexpensive bead. That's okay. They're not so perfectly uniform, and that's part of what gives this bracelet its beauty, is that texture from the non-uniform beads. So here we go. I'm going to start with the ladder stitch. Pick up a gray bead and a black bead. I'm going to run those all the way down through my thread till I get down near the bottom. And I put a bead stopper on there so that I don't go too far and go right off, sailing right off the end of my thread. I've left myself about a 1-foot tail for finishing work. Okay, now these beads have to be next to each other in the spiral stitch. So they're going to be laying side by side with the holes facing away from me and facing toward me. So to get that, right now my thread's coming out this way. I'm going to go up through the bottom of the silver one. I am going to go up through the bottom of the silver one and through both the silver and the black. Through the silver, the gray, gray and the black. And I'm going to make a loop. So there's a loop around these two beads, and I want the beads to lay side by side. And that's the hardest part, is getting them to lay side by side. They're a round bead. So keep poking them around until they get side by side, and see my holes are pointing away from me and pointing down toward the ground. It's not perfect, but it'll become more perfect as we go along. It's one of those kinds of bead systems where you have to trust that it's going to work out. Okay, after the black one, I'm going to add a white one. We'll go down through the black one, making a loop around the black and the white. And I want those bead holes facing away from me and facing toward me. Now my thread is coming out through this middle bead. I want it coming out the top of the white bead. So I'm going to go up through the white, and pick up another bead. I'm picking up the bronze. Now my thread's coming out the top, so I want to go back up through the bottom. Pull that all the way through. Keeping my tension quite tight. I'm trying to keep these all laying next to each other as if these were the rungs of a ladder, hence the name ladder stitch. Now that thread's coming out through the top of the white bead. I want it coming out the end, so I'm going to go down through the bronze and up through the blue. Iris blue. I'm adding iris blue. Down through the bronze to add that iris blue on, making a loop around the bronze and the iris blue. There you go. Now in this one I'm using 6 beads, but of course you could use different colors. You could use a different number of beads. I'd recommend an even number because an odd number is a different kind of stitch. And I'm not teaching that one right now. Okay, up through the iris blue, adding on a silver. Again, this thread's coming out through the top, so I'm going to go up through the bottom. There we go. And now the thread's coming out of the iris blue. I want it coming out the silver, so I'm going to go down through the silver. And if at any time your thread gets tangled or caught, trust me, it's going to all work out in the end. Tighten up all those lax spots that I've got here because my thread got caught. Keep your tension nice and tight so that these will stay lying next to each other a la ladder fashion. And it's not perfect. It's okay. It's going to be perfect in the end. Okay, now with these 6 beads, I have to make a ring. So I need to join that silver one with the gray one. This is coming out the bottom of the silver. I'm going to go up through the gray. go. That's still not quite sturdy enough, so I'm going to go back down through the silver just to stabilize everything, and that makes the nice loop. And then I want to be working from the top surface of my bead, so I'm going to go up one more time through that gray. Now that's one row of ladder stitch, and all my bead holes are pointing up and down, and I'm looking at the sides. Now I get to add 2 beads at a time, which is the best part about herringbone. Unlike peyote, where you add 1 bead at a time, we're going to start adding 2 at a time. So I'm adding a silver and a black, going down through the black. There we go. Make sure these line up. Sometimes they don't want to. You're the boss of these seed beads. You tell them what you want. So I'm going back down through there. Holes are up and down. They're going to be a little bit off. That's why it's called herringbone. It's got that sort of slanty pattern to it. I'm going to go up through the white.
And explain why, when you pick up 2, why they're 2 different colors and how they lay next to the proper adjacent colors.
And I'm going to pick up a white and a bronze, because those are my next 2 beads, are the white and the bronze. So I pick up white and bronze. So that we're starting to form rows of these colors. There we go. Again, I want to make sure those are lying the right way with their holes pointing up and back. Up through the iris blue.
Can I bother you?
You already are. Come on in.
Oh, are you guys actually recording?
We actually are, but come on in.
I was told. Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Just wanted to introduce you guys to the new copywriter, Greg.
Greg?
So actually,
Okay, so I picked up an iris blue and a silver, and down to the silver. And you see my iris blue lines on top of an iris blue, and my silver on top of a silver. There we go. So that is 2 rows of ladder stitch. Time to start the herringbone. Key words in herringbone to remember as you're working on it is up 1, down 2. So I've come out of the silvers. I'm going to go up through these grays. I'm going to go up through only 1 bead, the 1 bead on the topmost level. So I'm going to go up through the gray, up through 1 gray. Then I'm going to add a gray and a black, gray and black, and I'm going to go down through 2 blacks. So down 1 and 2, both of them. And for the next row, this is where the twisted herringbone begins. I'm going to go up through 1 white, and pick up a white and a bronze. And I'm going down through 2 of the bronze. I'm going to go up through the iris blue, up through 1 iris blue. And just like they're lined up here on my stitching part, I'm going to grab an iris blue and a silver. Iris blue and silver. Go down through the 2 silvers, 2, up 1, down 2. And get that tool out of my way. And you see how the iris bronze just goes right in line with all the other ones. But that silver one doesn't want to line up, so we just adjust it a little bit. They're your seed beads. You make them behave. Okay, next row. Now things are going to start coming together. I'm going to go up through 1 gray. And I will pick up a gray seed bead and a black seed bead. And I will go down through 2 blacks. Keep your tension tight all the time so that they stay lined up. Up through 1 white, Pick up a white and a bronze, and down through 2 bronze. Starting to look like something. Up through 1 iris blue, pulling that tension tight every time. Pick up an iris blue and a silver, and down through 2 silver. Oh, that little iris blue one didn't want to line up. I will make it behave. There we go. Line up so it looks like herringbone. Then up through 1 gray. If you've got the hang of this now, you can fast forward if you like. I'm going to be working on this for a while, but let's get it to the point where you can see where it's starting to make a spiral. You kind of have to trust sometimes with seed bead projects that it's going to come together. Keep working it down through 2 blacks. There we go. Now you don't have to force the spiral at all. It just does it on its own. Up through 1 white. Pick up a white and a bronze. Goes down through 2 bronze. And this gets easier as you move along. And pretty soon you'll see that spiral just start to develop all on its own. In fact, there are other variations of this where you can go up 1 and down 3. And that makes a different kind of spiral or a different direction of spiral. So it's a lot of experimenting you can play with here. Going up through 1 iris blue. Pick up an iris blue and a silver. Down through 2 silvers. You can even change partway through to make an interesting wiggle waggle type of pattern in your herringbone from the up 1 down 2 pattern. I'm going to keep this the up 1 down 2 pattern. Go up through the gray, 1 gray. Keep that tail out of the way. There we go. Pick up a gray and a black, and down through 2 blacks. Up through 1 white. Pick up a white and a bronze. Go down through 2 bronze. And you can see I've got quite a ways to go yet before I finish this bracelet. But you can see where the spiral's starting to develop, that it's starting to look like this. So I'm going to keep on working on this. If you're still with me now, just keep on working it yourself until you get this bracelet as long as you need it to be. And then I'm going to show you how to finish it. I'm going up through 1 iris blue, pick up an iris blue and a silver, down through 2 silver. So I'll see you in a couple of hours when I've got this to a good length to show you how to finish this bracelet. Thanks for joining me this much. I hope to see you soon. So here we are, and during that little break, I did all of this work for you guys. Isn't that great? It did take a couple hours, so I'm glad you didn't hang in with me for that whole time. Okay, now I'm going to finish this up with just 1 more black, 1 more white, and go down 2, and pull that all the way through. Okay, now I want to put this cone on the end of here. It doesn't fit all that well, so I'm going to do some reduction. I'm still going to go up 1, but this time instead of putting on 2 beads, I'm only going to put on 1. We're going to try and make this into a narrower braid, and I'm going to just go down 1.
Explain what reduction is.
It just doesn't really matter how you do this, just as long as you get this end smaller. Reduce it to a smaller size so that it can fit into the cone. And to be honest, I don't have a uniform way to do this. I just keep doing it. I put on only 1 bead this time again. We go up through here, and I'm only going to put on 1 bead. Put on the black bead. I just want to make this fit into the cone, so I'm making it smaller. Okay. Now I'm down to like 3 beads at the very top. I'm going to go up through this single bronze. I think I'll go through this silver as well. Tie it all together into a smaller little bundle. I'm going to go through the black as well. There we go. It's all tied together into a smaller bundle that's going to fit my cone. I'm going to add one more bead because I can. It's not going to show, so it doesn't really matter what color it is. I'm just going to put on a little black bead here. I want that to get all attached together. There we go. So that's my top little black bead right there. Now, I'm going to sew the end of this onto a piece of wire. I'm using a silver-plated 3-inch head pin, but it doesn't really matter. I just happen to like the gauge and the color of this wire. So I'm using a head pin, but I'm cutting the head off and just using it as a piece of wire. It is just a piece of wire. I'm going to make a wrapped loop. So with my pliers, I make a 90-degree bend. With my round nose pliers, I make the loop. And then I reposition those pliers and I finish the loop. And I turn it over into my other hand and I wrap the loop. And we have more videos on how to make a proper wrap loop. And in fact, this loop is going to go inside that cone, so nobody's going to see it. So don't worry if it's beautiful or not. Just make it secure like this. Okay, and then I'm going to tie the end of my bracelet to that loop. So I went through the loop, through my little black bead, unthread my needle just to make sure I'm well versed in how to rethread a needle. This is a really nice needle. I should point that out too. This is one by the Tulip Company, and it's got a nice big eye in it, so even old ladies like me can usually thread a needle efficiently unless a camera is on me, in which case it's a lot more difficult. And I do have my bifocals on. We even have a video on a proper way to thread a needle. I'm not doing it that way. But there is a proper way to thread a needle. We're going to cut some of this. Don't worry about it. There we go. Okay. So, through the loop on my wire, through my seed bead. And I do this, 3 or 4 times. Make sure that I have lots of this nice fire line holding this all together. It's a very, very tough thread. It's used for fishing a lot of times. Great for jewelry use too. I just want it nice and strong because the weight of the bracelet is focused right here. There we go. And then I'm going to tie a couple of half hitches just to tie it off. I'm going to go through the thread. It's all black. Sorry, camera people. Through the thread. Excuse me. There we go. Through the thread and back through this loop. That's what makes the half hitch. That's what makes the knot. So I'm going to go through the thread and through the loop to make the half hitch. And I'm just going to go around that eye pin and that last black bead a couple more times to make sure they're nice and secure. There we go. And one more. And then I'm going to tie all this off with just a series of half hitches. So I will go under the thread and then through the loop. It's basically a knot. We call it a fancy name like a half hitch. It's a knot. There we go. And I do a couple of those under the thread, through the loop, knot it nice and tight, under the thread. You don't even need to catch all the thread, just a couple. and tie a half hitch, tie a knot. There we go. Now I'm going to trim that off. And notice I'm not using a pair of scissors. I'm using these great nippers. Yeah, I find that scissors don't really work on this fire line very well. It's really tough cord. So I use my little nippers. Get that out of my way. And I'm also going to use a little dot of glue on that knot. This is Fraylock by E6000. And I don't need a lot, less than I put on there. We'll spread that around. It'll be good. And I won't get it on that little pad because it makes a mark. Then, don't worry that it isn't dried yet. It will dry. Slip on the cone. Make sure the ugly part of your beads, that ending that I wasn't very neat on, is all tucked in. And we're going to add a 3mm silver plated bead, just because it makes a nice little professional ending on it. It makes it pretty. And we're going to make a wrapped loop. So this time I want the wrapped loop to be pretty. So I'm looking at how long that stem is. That stem right there. I want it to be the same length as that one, so that it's uniform on both sides. So I'm going to move that down a little bit and make my 90-degree bend right there. Then with the round nose pliers, I'll make a loop. Reposition the pliers. Finish the loop. Put the pliers into my other hand. And finish the loop by wrapping it around using these bent chain nose pliers. And each coil around is placed directly under the coil before to make a beautiful little spring-looking type of thing on the end there. And I had 4 loops on the other side. So I want to have 4 loops on this side. There we go. And again, using those little nippers and making sure I don't let pieces of wire go flying. Cut that off. If there's a little bit sticking out like that, I don't like that, so I use my pliers to tuck that under. I don't want that catching on somebody's sweater. I'm going to flatten out that loop too to make it prettier. There we go. So now all we need now is the clasp. I'm using this great clasp here. And I've got jump rings. Sometimes I like to use these oval jump rings because the gap is on the side. And so when they're hung on your necklace or bracelet or whatever, it's very rare that the gap and the wire that you've wrapped around are going to meet. So you're less likely to have anything pull through a gap in your jump ring. But of course, I'm very careful about getting my jump rings closed. I wiggle back and forth and make sure I can feel that closure. Make sure that that jump ring is really closed. There we go. And on the other side, open the jump ring with a twist. Add my clasp. Close the jump ring very carefully so it's truly closed.
When you're finished, just center the pad.
There we go. And we have this gorgeous spiral bracelet ready for you to wear on an evening out, or if you prefer, with a pair of beautiful jeans. Thank you so much for joining me for this great project. Hope you'll check this project out and all the other ones available on YouTube and on our Fire Mountain Gems website. All the products I've used here are available at firemountaingems.com. Thanks for joining me. Happy beading!